So I'd like to say hello to everybody who's zooming in, and we have a good set of panelists today to discuss the Clean Energy Program in New Jersey. My name is Sheila Baker-Gujral, and I am the co-chair of the Essex County Environmental Commission, and I'm also the Resource Center Director at ANJEC. And I have with us my colleague Liz Ritter, who is the Deputy Director at ANJEC, and Ann Marchioni is the co-chair of the Essex County Environmental Commission, and she's also the co-chair of the Caldwell Environmental Commission. So did you want to say anything, Ann, or?
Just welcome to everybody. So glad that you're interested in helping to save the planet.
Okay, so for those of you who are just checking in right now, if you could go ahead and just introduce yourself and say where you're from and what environmental commission or what your affiliation is. And then Carrie Ann Lombardo will take it over from here. And she's with Clear Result, and she's been working on putting this together. So Carrie Ann.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm actually with New Jersey's Clean Energy Program. Okay. I'm just going to turn it over to, we have two of the speakers from our Clean Energy Program here today. We have Tony O'Donnell from our Commercial and Industrial team and Michele Calabrese from the Residential team. They're going to give you a presentation on both of our sectors. So please stay with us till the end. If you have any questions, please enter them into the chat box and we'll do a Q&A with you after the presentation. There you go, Michele. I'm going to turn my camera off.
Thank you so much, Carrie Ann. And I'm going to share my screen, everyone. So just make sure you can see it. It should be coming up now. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So we're going to go slideshow mode. And thank you for that introduction, Carrie Ann, and thank you for having us on. Yes, my name is Michele Calabrese, and I'm with the Clean Energy Program. I work on the residential side, so multifamily, single family, that's kind of my domain. Tony works on the commercial industrial side. And the way we're going to do today's presentation is basically, I'm just going to start with the residential. We're going to do a little bit of an overview, and then we're going to move on to commercial industrial. And then finally, we're going to close with renewables. So a little bit about solar. So I just wanted to include some things with Zoom. I think we kind of all know this at this point, but there's the speaker view, the gallery view. I think we're in speaker view right now, so everyone can just basically see me, but just wanted to include everything, as well as our mute and unmute buttons. As we go on to Q&A, some people can chime in, give us some questions. As Carrie Ann also said, please type them as we're going along the way, which you can kind of see in our chat box right there. So if you have any questions, just throw them all along the way and we'll answer them at the end. And we're gonna have a couple poll questions along the way. So please throw in some letters. I want it to be as interactive as possible. We can't be together in person today, but we might as well do the best we can. All right, so today we're gonna do a little bit of an introduction to the Board of Public Utilities and the Clean Energy Program. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the Clean Energy Program. For those who are not, hopefully you're gonna learn a lot today. We're also gonna do some program highlights, our impacts, what's going on with the program. And then, like I said, we're gonna review the residential program, the commercial and industrial program, and the renewable energy and solar side. So the BPU's Clean Energy Program is funded by something called the Societal Benefits Charge. If you look at your utility bill, we're all at home right now, that utility bill is probably not too far away. This is what funds this program. It's a little surcharge on there, and it's residential, it's commercial, it's an industrial. If you looked at your office's utility bill, it's most likely there. The program goals, pretty straightforward. We want to educate the public, we want to change behavior, and we're providing opportunity for all New Jersey residents to reduce energy and lower operating costs. And this is all in pursuit of meeting the governor's goal of 100% clean energy by 2050. It's an ambitious goal, but it's something we really want to strive towards because we want to make this a better planet for everyone. All right, so these are just some of the programs to meet goals. We're working on customer education, energy conservation, energy efficiency, renewable energy. These are all the things we incorporate into our program. Tony and I are touching on a very small part of all our programs today. And there's just a lot out there. And I'll do a very brief overview of everything as we go along. So program highlights, what have we done? So in fiscal year 2019, we processed 131,000 applications and paid out $136 million in incentives. So there's a lot of real dollars being incentivized here, which is leading to a lot of real world results. So we have about 96,000 cars worth of CO2 removed from the roads, planted about $7.4 million worth of trees in CO2. And then we also had 452,616 metric tons of greenhouse gas eliminated. So again, these are all real world results these programs are having. So there's 5 main categories we have with the clean energy program. We have our residential category, which I'm going to be touching on, commercial and industrial, which Tony's going to go over, renewable energy, as well as distributed energy resources. So this we're not going to be going into, but it's things like combined heat and power, microgrid development. Tony's going to touch a little bit on microgrids, but there's a lot more to go into, as well as specialized energy efficiency. So things like community energy grants, energy tech hub, workforce development. These are just all of the things we have available. And if you have questions on something we don't know about, we're happy to try to get you an answer. So onto residential programs. You know, we're fortunate in New Jersey, we have a great suite of residential programs. Before I go into a lot of details though, I do just want to give you a 1-sentence primer. So if you take anything from today's presentation, you can always remember that little 1-sentence thing. So home performance with Energy Star, it's the whole home approach to energy efficiency. And I'm going to touch on what that really means and get into it. We call it the crown jewel of our programs. Our WARMAdvantage, COOLAdvantage program. Pretty straightforward. It's a program where if you have a certain efficiency for a certain equipment, you get a certain rebate. And I'm going to talk about what those equipments are. We also have our energy efficient product rebates. So these are the things we're all familiar with. You know, our Energy Star certified equipment. We've all seen Energy Star in Home Depot, Lowe's, Best Buy. We know that logo. Then we have residential new construction. So if you're building from the ground up, you know, this is where you want to focus. And then finally, our Comfort Partners program. So this is our free income qualified program. So before I get into all these programs, we just want to do a little trivia. So type in the chat box here, but what % of our energy bill goes to cooling and heating our homes? And just start throwing answers in, and I'm going to give everyone, you know, 20, 30 seconds, and Carrie Ann's going to read out our answers, and we'll see how the audience does.
Okay, let's see. People are answering. Okay, Michele, we have 50% B. Well, now answers are pouring in. So we've got a cross section of answers. We've got some D's, some C's, and some B's.
Great, thank you, Carrie Ann. So the answer is it's around 42% of our average annual bill. So it's a significant portion. And if you add water heating, it's around 55%. So, you know, that's why we really focus on this equipment, because if you're making this more energy efficient, you're really affecting the homeowner's savings as well as the environmental impact. So home performance with Energy Star. Like I said, this is our, you know, this is our crown jewel program. We're really proud of this program and homeowners love it. So what is home performance? If you haven't heard of home performance with Energy Star, it's a whole house energy assessments and comprehensive energy efficient upgrades for existing homes. And we're addressing things like energy usage. That's pretty straightforward, but this program really focuses on comfort, indoor air quality, and health and safety. So it's about comfort. You know, we love energy efficiency and we want to be energy efficient, but comfort is really important. We've spent so much time in our homes over these last few months that we're really starting to notice what works and what doesn't work. And this program uses specifically trained BPI, Building Performance Institute, Gold Star contractors. So what that means is we're vetting these contractors and they have to have certain certifications, and we're making sure they have all their licenses, that they have all their insurance. So when you go into this program, you can count on them being properly vetted contractors. So benefits for homeowners, you know, the energy efficiency kind of speaks for itself, but eliminating drafts and creating a more comfortable home. My parents live in an 1880s Victorian, and there is one room that is always too hot or always too cold. Home performance is focusing on removing those rooms so you feel comfortable anywhere. We're also making a tighter home. So we're reducing dust and allergen issues as well as outdoor contaminants. So things that might flare up with allergies and making problems like that. If you have a tighter home, you're gonna have less of those contaminants getting in. And it's something that you really can't notice unless you've been in it. You know, I can tell you from being in my parents' home, there's a lot of outdoor air getting in there, which is good, but there's also sort of certain contaminants getting in. All right, so how would one participate in this program? It's pretty straightforward, but what you're gonna wanna do is you select a participating contractor. You can find them on our website at njcleanenergy.com/HP. And it's really straightforward. It's a tool where you can literally go in, and put your zip code, and you'll get 5, 10, 15, 20 miles. You wanna see how many contractors are in your area. And then you reach out to them for a home assessment. So we're gonna explain what the home assessment is on the next couple slides, but I recommend reaching out to a few different contractors because with the pricing, we don't regulate the pricing. So contractors are free to charge how they want. And with that home assessment, some will include that in their pricing. Some will do it for free. Some will waive it if you do a job in the program. So they all work differently. Doesn't mean one contractor is doing a better job than the other. They have their own ways of working. And that assessment is going to identify health and safety issues as well as energy improvements. And then based on that, you can review contractor recommendations and incentive levels. So you kind of decide what's right for you. And then finally, the contractor does the work. So what is that home assessment? That's one of the questions I get a lot. People, we're kind of like, we're uncomfortable in our homes, but this really quantifies, how the comfort can be affected, and then also what type of energy savings we can expect. So they're going to do things like combustion appliance testing. So they're testing the conditions of your heating system, your hot water heater, oven, and they're also doing a visual inspection of their home. So they're looking during this inspection mostly for opportunities for air sealing and insulation. I'm sure some of us are familiar with air sealing and insulation, but before I started this job, I really wasn't that familiar with air sealing. So something like air sealing the attic is so important. It stops a lot of the energy escaping, but what it's basically doing is filling in all of these gaps and stopping air from escaping, because you can have the most efficient air conditioner, the most efficient heating system in the world, but if you have all these gaps, the air's escaping. You're just heating and cooling outside efficiently. So it's really important to make sure you have those gaps filled, and that's why we focus on that in home performance. And then there's finally the blower door test. So for those who aren't familiar with the blower door, essentially what it is, it's right there. It's this inflatable door that you put inside your front door, and there's a fan at the bottom, and it's going to be blowing air in and out. And what the contractors do is they'll use an IR camera, and it's the type of thing where, I can tell you that there's energy escaping from your house, and it's kind of hard to see, but you can actually see with an IR camera. You can see the heat, you can see where things are going through. It's a really useful tool. And a good home performance contractor, they're going to lead you through this. They're going to let you know exactly what's going on. They're going to let you know, oh, look, this is a really leaky area. It's really a cooperative process. So you're learning something along the way. So onto the dollars and cents. And with home performance, we're really fortunate with these rebates. I don't like to brag, but I think we have the best rebates in the country. So like I said, every single job is going to have insulation and air sealing. So that tier 2 is going to do insulation, air sealing, and domestic hot water. And then the rebates based on the energy saved. So if you're saving between 5 and 20% energy, you're going to get up to a $2,000 rebate. Plus there's bonus rebates for urban enterprise zones, low to moderate income, and affordable housing. But we're going to touch on that a little bit later on. I don't want to get too in the weeds on that. And then our tier 3-1, again, it's insulation and air sealing, but then it's any other eligible measure. So when I say any other eligible measure, that's your air conditioning system, that's your heating system, that's your water heating system, things like that. And the energy saving is between 20 and 25%, and the rebate is up to $3,000. And then finally, tier 3-2, same measures, but greater than 25% energy saved, and it's a $4,000 rebate. And this is actually where most of the jobs in our program fall. So most people who do work in this program are saving more than 25% energy savings. And we gotta have our animation, right? So onto home performance financing. The rebates are great, but the financing is very generous in this program. We have a $10,000 loan at 0% financing for 7 years. So it's about $120 a month. And when I tell people this, they say, 0% is, what's the catch? Is there something? There really isn't. It's a 0% interest rate. There's no variable interest. The amount doesn't change. It's a very, very generous terms, because we even have a $15,000 loan at 0.99% financing. So, it's an additional loan. If you want additional financing, it's there. And you can always check with your local utility for more loan opportunities, because some utilities actually stack loans on top of these. So if you get anything out of this, there's a lot of money available for you doing energy efficiency upgrades on your home in the state of New Jersey. So I talk a lot of numbers, but I really like to talk about testimonials and people who've gone through this, because you get a better idea of the real world and how it works. So this is Diane from Hillsborough. This was done in 2016, and she had a fairly large home, and her concerns, pretty standard. Her equipment was getting old. She had drafts. We all have drafts in our home. Lower utility bills through energy efficiency she wanted. And then she installed the works, air sealing, insulation, water heater, furnace, central air conditioning. So pretty much everything she could do, she did. Her project cost was $16,000, and she received a $4,000 rebate. So she owed $12,000 essentially for the work. And then she got a $10,000 loan at 0% interest. So she paid $2,000 out of pocket on a $16,000 project. But if she wanted to, she could have done the 0.99% $15,000 loan. It would have been literally $0 out of pocket expense. And on top of all of this, she was saving 25% on the energy savings improvement. So you can see how this is, kind of a slam dunk when it comes to doing work in your home if you want to do some upgrades. All right. So another trivia question. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I just want to make sure that everyone's still paying attention. I know it's around dinner time. So Where do you think your house is leaking the most air? So doors, windows, attic floor, or chimney? And Carrie Ann, I'm going to let you take over here.
Sure.
And we'll give people a few seconds.
Okay, let's see. Very good. Again, we have a couple of different answers, but it looks like the majority of people are guessing B, windows.
No, let's see.
No?
See? All right, well, C is correct. So attic floor is the correct answer. Yeah, Windows is a popular one. You know, we've seen ads for Windows and the importance of for energy efficiency, and it is true, but you're losing most of your energy through that attic floor with your, you know, with that air sealing and insulation, you're really stopping that from happening. And the air sealing is the most important part of that attic floor. So onto our WARMAdvantage, COOLAdvantage program. This program is really straightforward. It's as I said, piece of equipment has a certain efficiency, you get a certain rebate. And this is a great program. You know, maybe you already did your air conditioning system and you're like, I just need a new water heater. I don't need to do all this home performance. You know, I did air sealing and insulation a while back. This is a great program. So it's going to be rebates for central air conditioning, for heat pumps. So our mini split cold climate air source heat pumps are up to $2,000. And if you're not familiar with the heat pump, it's a unit that's both heating and cooling in the home. So they're very popular these days. I'm seeing them installed more and more in homes. And we also have really significant rebates too for electric heat pump water heaters up to $750. And then again, we have that bonus. So the urban enterprise zone, low to moderate income bonus of $200 per unit. All right, so on to our energy efficient products rebates. And products and recycling are when we do in-person events, which we usually do a lot of them, you know, we hear all about these programs. People love them. So appliance rebates, you know, people are really familiar with the clothes washers and refrigerators, the Energy Star logos, and getting rebates on that. But I like to highlight things like air purifiers for $50, dehumidifiers for $25, or room air conditioners for $15. So if you're getting small units, there's still rebates available. And then the common question I get asked is, how do I know if it qualifies? There's actually eligible product lists on each page, and you can go to that link, check our website, and you know, you can see if that piece of equipment that you've been looking at installing qualifies for a rebate. So appliance recycling. And when I was talking about earlier how I hear, you know, a lot of great things about our programs, this is probably the one that most people have used from everyone I do talk to at events. So the way this works is we pay for recycling old, inefficient refrigerators and freezers, and it's a free pickup and a $50 rebate. So we're picking up the equipment, we're recycling for you, and we're giving you $50. I know my parents got rid of their old fridge a couple of years ago, and they live in New York, and they had to pay to get rid of it. And during that appointment, you can also have room air conditioners and dehumidifiers for an additional $25 each. And we're recycling around 95% of each appliance. And with this program right now, we're doing curbside pickup. So you can schedule an appointment at njcleanenergy.com/recycling. All right, so on to residential new construction. And with residential new construction, you know, if you have any more questions about this, please let me know. I like to do a bird's eye view of this program because, you know, not many of us are building our new homes, but I'm always interested to talk about it. So, you know, with new construction, when you're building from the ground up, there's just so much more opportunity for energy efficiency. My parents' 1880s Victorian is never going to be as efficient as a brand new home. And typically the energy efficiency, you know, it's between 15 and 50% more energy efficient. And this program also does include gut rehabs. So if you're tearing the studs, doing 100% redo, this program is also going to qualify. And with this program, we're designing to standards well above other homes on the markets today. And homes are receiving incentives for certified Energy Star home. Yes, it is the same exact Energy Star home, zero energy ready homes. So these are homes that are ready to be quote unquote zero energy ready, which doesn't mean they use zero energy, but it's a zero energy net add to the environment. And also multifamily high rise. And these homes, they include features like air sealing and insulation, which, you know, I could talk about all day. It's very important to do in your home. High performance windows, high efficiency HVAC systems, and then obviously your Energy Star energy efficient lighting and appliances. All right, so bonus incentives. I mentioned them a little bit earlier, but I always want to go into more detail on these. You know, we have bonuses for urban enterprise zone, low to moderate income, and affordable housing. Urban enterprise zone, certain areas of the state have been quote unquote classified as urban enterprise zones. And Tony's going to go into more detail on that, but this is the type of thing where, you know, one street may be urban enterprise zone area, one may not. Then there's low to moderate income. So just to give you an idea of the typical guidelines on this program, a family of 4 making $104,000 or less are going to qualify for this program. And with urban enterprise zone or low to moderate income, it's an either or. So you get one rebate or the other. And, you know, Warm Cool has rebates for both. Residential new construction, home performance, there you can see right here on the graph. But there's a lot of different extra rebates available if homeowners qualify. So finally, on to Comfort Partners. And this is our free energy saving program geared toward low income homeowners who are at or below 250% of the federal poverty guidelines. So this work is also done by BPI Gold Star contractors, and they're going to be doing things like energy efficient lighting, hot water conservation measures, insulation upgrades, you know, inefficient refrigerators and thermostats. So this is a program designed for low income homeowners that does a similar type of work as Home Performance with Energy Star. All right, and more information, I always like to talk about the Clean Energy Learning Center, and you can go to the website there, but it's an online education tool where you can get courses and videos and learn about various things in the clean energy world. You know, this is for everyone. You know, it's for anyone who's interested, you know, from the novice of energy efficiency to people who are really into it. And it's a great resource. I go there myself. I've taken a couple courses, so definitely worth taking a look at. And I know today's audience is probably already pretty interested in something like this. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to hand it over to Tony to talk on about commercial and industrial, and I'm going to go take my camera off. And Tony, it's all you.
Thank you very much, Michele, and thank you to ANJEC for having us today. I actually want to give a little hat tip to the members on the environmental commissions for the work that you do statewide. I'll tell you, early in my career, I was on the staff at ANJEC for about 6 months or so, and really noticed the impact that environmental commissions have. So for those on the webinar that aren't aware, environmental commissions have a unique place. They've been carved out by law to have an advisory role to the land use planning board. And so in relation to commercial and the commercial and industrial sector, which as Michele mentioned, I'll be talking about our programs in clean energy, you're likely to have the ear of your land use planning board and your town committee or town council, whatever form of government you have, and they are always interested in ratables, right? That's an important thing. Environmental commission members tend to worry about balancing ratables and the economy with the environment, but I think we can all agree that both are probably important. So thank you for the work that you do as environmental commission members. We're happy to be here. I think Michele did a great job discussing the residential programs. We have a lot of programs. And as Michele mentioned, we're funded by the societal benefits charge. Everyone pays it, residents and businesses pay it. And so the program is structured to provide programs to allow all those sectors to benefit. So I'm gonna go through the commercial industrial sectors programs. Again, as Michele mentioned, at a higher level, if there's something that you want more detail about, we're going to share our contact information later. Please do reach out to us. We're happy to work more closely with you if you think there's a particular program you want more information about, or that may really suit your community. Next slide, please, Michele. So, and Michele set up his presentation the same way I'll set mine up. There is a broad spectrum of programs essentially that fall into 4 buckets. Some are education related. Then there are programs that actually go ahead and, Michele, can you see me? I'm getting a note that I need to turn my camera on.
No.
I can see you.
Okay, so sorry, maybe I misread it. So we have the education programs, then we have the rest of the programs are things that actually provide financial incentives to go ahead and do upgrades. And there's a couple different types of those. And then after Hurricane Sandy happened, it became important about resilience. So we have a bunch of distributed energy resource programs that fall into commercial industrial, and I'll talk about a couple of those. Next slide, please. So as Michele mentioned, about a year ago now, we started to, in addition to the regular incentives that we give for the various programs. We expanded those base incentives in urban enterprise zones, something called OZs, opportunity zones. Both of those zones are types of zones that economically challenged communities. As Michele mentioned, there's just recently on the residential and the commercial side, commercial meaning multifamily, we have affordable housing based incentives. So these enhanced incentives are different for each program, so we can give you more details, but they generally are pretty significantly enhanced incentives. You see on the map there on the right is the geography-based ones, the urban enterprise zones and the commercial and the opportunity zones. But you should be aware of those. If you are promoting any programs, please get in touch with us. We can let you know if the businesses or schools or municipalities or fall in these particular zones. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that we have 4 categories of programs. The first is education-based. We're incentivizing people to get information about their facilities. So on the commercial side, we have a energy benchmarking program. It's open to commercial, industrial, ag, and government nonprofits, which ANJEC folks would be working with, I know. And this program allows, collects some energy bills, about a year's worth of energy bills, and benchmarks you, the business or the nonprofit, against similar types of businesses and tells you how you're doing with regards to energy. Next slide, please. So, and this is an example of you get a small report, 10 to 20 pages worth, that will go through your energy bills, both electric and gas, tell you how you stack up, adjust for weather, and some other factors, and gives you some idea where it gives you a score based from 0 to 100, a benchmarking score, which is much like the scores we used to get when we were in grammar school and the standardized test. It's a median. If you get a 50, that means you're doing better than the 50% and not as good as the 50% are doing better than you. So that number gives you a pretty good idea of where you're at. And if you could use some upgrades to your facilities. Next slide, please. So in addition to, so we have a much more in-depth program for local governments, meaning municipality buildings, schools, and county buildings. So this is called the Local Government Energy Audit Program. We provide a much more in-depth assessment of facilities. We do collect the 12 months of energy data, but we also send staff out to take a look at the equipment, take a look at the building as a system, as an energy system. We do what's called an ASHRAE level 2 audit. The audit comes back and gives you all the stuff you saw in that energy benchmarking report. But in addition, something called a whole list of ECMs, energy conservation measures, things that we are recommending that if you did them, you would save significant amounts of energy. Examples would be upgrading your heating and ventilating air conditioning equipment, upgrading your lighting. If you have older lighting, upgrading to LEDs. There are a whole list of different things that you could do. And this local government energy audit, which is free to the entities that are eligible for it, provides that roadmap. Next slide, please. And this, actually, I talked about this already. The process, we essentially collect data and then send folks out to assess your facilities, and you get an energy audit report at the end of the process. And in fact, as of a couple of years ago, when the company I worked for, TRC, which is a private company but contracted by the Clean Energy Program to do the commercial industrial program, since we took over doing this, instead of just handing off the report, so I see a question: are local governments eligible for free energy audits? Yes, they are. So this program is 100% free for local governments. And at the end of the day, you get a report on the buildings that you have audited, and we sit with you and do what we call an exit interview and actually have a back and forth discussion about what this means, so that you have a plan forward on how to actually implement some of the energy conservation measures that you see. So that's, next slide, please. Those 2 programs are the gathering of information. The rest of the programs I'll talk about are actually doing upgrades to your facilities. We provide a host of different financial incentives, and people will fall in different categories. Some businesses or local governments might only need very specific, singular things done. Some might benefit, a lot of times they benefit for a much more comprehensive view. We have programs designed for both. So first I'll talk about the more comprehensive programs. Next slide, please. So we have for large energy users in New Jersey, and I'm talking about very large energy users, users that have paid, there's a bunch of criteria here, but they had to have paid $200,000 into the Societal Benefit Fund. To do that, to give you some example, the societal benefit charge on your bill is a fraction of a penny. It's about a third of a penny. So to pay, imagine how much you would have to, energy you would have to use, how many kilowatts to have a bill of $200,000 for just for that societal benefit charge. So these are really large users, but they pay into the program. And since they are large users, if we can incentivize them to be more energy efficient, we go a long way toward reaching the goal that mentioned earlier, the governor's goal to reach 100% clean energy by 2050. So there's that large energy users program. The next slide, please. Now, so for everyone else, the large energy users program probably applies to a couple hundred really, really largest users of energy. Everybody else, and there are thousands of entities in the state, would fall into one of these next two programs. The first is the larger of the two. So pay for performance, it is essentially what it's called. We're paying you, you get an incentive to do the upgrades, and then if you meet a specific standard of energy savings, you get an incentive at the end. So this is for buildings that are larger commercial industrial buildings. It covers new buildings and existing buildings. You have to reach a minimum savings of 15% of energy savings. If you want to go to the next slide, I can show you what the process looks like. So this is a longer process than the next program I'll talk about. So since these are larger buildings that are more complicated, the first step is to come up with an energy reduction plan. We give you an incentive to do that. We incentivize it. It costs to hire an engineering firm to do that. And actually we have qualified pay for performance contractors that are contracted through Clean Energy Program. And so they've been vetted already. You work with those firms, to the one that you pick, to come up with an energy reduction plan. Next, you do the actual installation of those energy conservation measures. You can get up to 40% of the cost of that. So just for example, if $1 million worth of upgrades are recommended, at the time that you do those upgrades, the Clean Energy Program would pay $400,000 of the $1 million. And then finally, after a year after those things have been installed, if you meet the goals that were set in the energy reduction plan, you can get another 40%. So you could get an additional $400,000 after a year if you meet those targets. So you're looking at up to 80% savings for this program, very lucrative. Next slide, please. For those, the rest, which is probably more than half of the commercial entities, would be considered small and medium-sized facilities. Those that use have an annual peak energy demand of less than 200 kilowatts over 12 months. This is a much simpler program. There's a dedicated direct install contractor for each county, and we can set you up with that. And from the beginning of this process, which involves having the direct install contractor come out, do an assessment, a walkthrough assessment of your buildings, and come up with energy conservation measures, to the very end when it's actually installed, usually takes 6 months. And this program covers up to 70% of the cost of the program, of your upgrades. If you're in one of those enhanced zones, it covers up to 80%. So, and then now these, just give you some idea, I gave you an example for pay for performance that project might be $1 million. In this case, these are smaller buildings. A typical one might, though, be up to $100,000 of upgrades. And in this case, it could pay up $70,000 or $80,000 if you're in an enhanced zone. So that's great. And in this case, the Clean Energy Program pays that money to the direct install contractor. You don't have to pay it out of pocket. So you're only responsible for the other percentage that's left, the 20 or 30%. I will note here that you should always check with your local utility, because sometimes the local utilities, the natural gas or electric utility will have additional incentives that can help you pay even more of this. So always check with those. Next slide, please. So, and this is just a slide showing the difference between the, if you're in an enhanced zone, you get 80% versus 70% in a zone that's not an enhanced zone. Next slide, please. So if you are not going to use that direct install program or the pay for performance program, those are systemic whole building things. Say you know that you only need air conditioning and lighting, and you don't really need anything else. Well, you can go through what's known as a custom tailored energy efficiency pilot program. This is based off of another program I'll talk about in a minute, our SmartStart buildings program, that it has specific, this is a rebate program. Instead of taking the total amount of money for the project and giving you a percentage, we're giving you a set dollar amount for each piece of equipment that you come up with. The custom tailored energy efficiency pilot program is designed to work with you if you have a bunch of different technologies. Next slide, please. This program, so, and actually I'll get into a little bit more. If you go to the next slide, that custom tailored energy efficiency pilot program is based on the SmartStart program. The SmartStart program is a rebate, single measure rebate program, available to all commercial industrial. In this case, since you're not working with a contractor, anyone, the incentive here follows the piece of equipment. So you could hire an energy service company to put in the air conditioning or the lighting. But if you can do it yourself, if you're a school or a business that has an ability to install the lighting yourself, you can go ahead and do it yourself. And you can directly apply to us and you would get the incentive for each piece of equipment that you're incentivized for. Next slide, please. This next slide shows the big variety of programs, different technologies. So lighting controls, heating and ventilating air conditioning, boilers, chillers, VFDs, which are variable frequency drives, which are very efficient pieces of equipment that adjust how the rate at which motors turn depending on the demand for the piece of equipment, and that can very high energy efficiency returns on that. Food service equipment, any buildings, any businesses that are serving food, schools, municipalities that might have community gatherings, community centers that might have food could get energy efficiency savings through food service equipment, and then general refrigeration. Next slide, please. So that gives you some idea of the comprehensive and the single measure rebates. I did want to talk for just briefly about the distributed energy resource programs. So these are resiliency-based programs and tend to be very high energy efficiency returns. Next slide, please. So the first one is the combined heat and power program. So anybody that has combined heat and power is essentially your coming up with on-site electricity generation, and you can do it through a bunch of different ways. You can do it through fuel cells. There are different types of technology that will allow you to come up and produce energy on site. I will, as an example, the College of New Jersey has a combined heat and power facility, and during Hurricane Sandy, they were able to disconnect from the electric grid and provide energy and stay on lines to keep their buildings going. So that's a big resiliency advantage during the vast majority of the rest of the time when things are okay. You're producing energy that you're not now having to use from the grid. So you're saving a lot of money. And since the energy is produced on site, there's no loss in transmission of energy. So these are very, very efficient uses of energy. These are very expensive programs, so it's not a small investment, but we've been working with different municipalities and school districts and universities actually to site these so that they can provide resiliency benefits as well. Next slide, please. And this gives you some idea. There's different ways that you can do this, and the more complicated you get, the more energy efficiency you squeeze out of the technology. So we all know if you run a generator or any piece of equipment, heat is an off product of it? Well, you can use that heat, if you generate enough of it in a combined heat power thing, to boil water, to create steam and capture that energy that would otherwise just have been lost as heat loss, right? So there are a bunch of different ways to do this. And the more complicated you get, the more incentives there are to do those different types of technology. So next slide, please. And so the very last thing I'll talk about is microgrids. So at this point, the Board of Public Utilities has funded a bunch of programs. We've had 13 different feasibility studies across the state that essentially are looking at types of setups that I mentioned before, like that TCNJ has, an ability to disconnect from the main electric grid, produce energy and distribute it more than just the place. So it might be produced on a municipal site, but then also pumped across town to a school or a shelter or something like that. So these microgrids have been studied, and these distributed energy technologies are something that's very important for the Board of Public Utilities going forward. That's what I have on commercial industrial. I'll kick it back to Michele, but I do encourage you to reach out to us if you have any questions. If there's something that I said that piqued your interest that I couldn't get into more detail about, but we're very excited about these different programs.
All right, thank you so much, Tony. Great job. All right, so we wanted to touch a little bit on renewable energy before the presentation's over. So, feel free to type in more questions along the way. And just a little bit of a disclaimer, I'm no expert on the solar end. So any questions you have that I can't answer, I will make sure that you get an answer. So solar in New Jersey, solar's the big thing when it comes to energy efficiency. In fact, when I tell people about the clean energy program, they say solar. That's like the first thing they think of. But what to consider when you're thinking of solar, is my home as energy as efficient as possible? It's a good first question, because you want to do that home performance type work. You want to do that air sealing, that insulation, the upgrading the HVAC, because you're going to have less of a footprint and you'll need less solar. So you won't have an oversized system if you want to do that. You really want to get that low hanging fruit done first. And then, how do you determine if your home is suitable for solar? Not every home is. Some homes, you have that tree you have in the yard for 40, 50 years, and you don't want to get rid of that tree, but that tree is obscuring your entire roof. So it wouldn't really work for solar. And it just, sometimes the orientation on the roof isn't right. So there's lots of reasons solar might not work for you. And then you want to look at what state and federal incentives are available to help finance the system. So with that, on the federal side, currently there's a 26% federal tax credit, and that's a sliding scale. So it's going down right now, but this year is 26%, as well as what type of state incentives there are. And I'm going to touch on that in the next slide or two. So, and then what type of pathways you have to purchasing a system. So for some people, they want to own the system. Other people want to lease the system. And, I get a lot of questions, which one's right? There really isn't one right answer. For some people, leasing might be the right answer. For others, it might be ownership. But if you really want to learn more about solar, contact a solar company and get an idea of how they work, because there's so many out there and they all work so differently. So you really want to do your due diligence. And we actually have a trade ally database on our website where you can look and see, if any companies might be a fit for you. So we have SRECs and TRECs here. So T-Rex, not the dinosaur. Ha ha ha. No one's laughing, I know. But so SRECs, are solar renewable energy certificates. They were the previous program. So the way it worked was SRECs, after your solar panels generated a certain amount of energy, they generated an SREC. And we had a milestone in New Jersey where once 5.1% of the energy kilowatt hours was coming from solar sources, this program is closed. We actually have hit that. So now we've moved on to the TREC system, which is the transitional. So right now we're in a transitional phase, and this is a bridge program. So, there's a to be determined successor program out there. What that program is, I don't know. It's slowly moving in that direction, and we'll see. But the current program it's a fixed price, 15-year transition renewable energy certificate, so a TREC. And there's more information available on our website. But to give you an idea with TRECs, they're actually around $91 for a residential system each TREC is worth. So you can get more of an idea and what that means if you look online. I'm certainly happy to try to answer questions about it to my best to the best of my ability, but around 1,000 kilowatt hours equals 1 TREC. So a TREC, again, it's worth around $91. So community solar, this program, this is a newer program. And the way it works is, like I said, some people, solar isn't right for them. So, you know, that might be renters, that might be other households, institutions, businesses who can't put things on their roof. And what it is a larger remotely located solar array or facility that's virtually divided among multiple people by means of credit on their utility bills. So it's a new concept, but they're very popular. You know, we're on a 3-year pilot right now. And our goal was to have about 40% of our capacity for projects to serve LMI customers. And in year 1, which we are already through, 45 projects were approved and 100% of them were LMI households. So we've already done work in this program. And with this program, you know, these are the questions you want to ask yourself. Do you want solar, but you don't have a place for the panels? You know, maybe you can't afford to put the panels on your facility, or you have room for more panels, but not the energy use. So these are just some questions to think of with community solar. So there's really 2 different forms of participation when it comes to community solar. There's ownership. So you're buying a share or portion of the community solar project or panels, and there's a subscription. So like with any subscription, you're buying a portion or share of the electrical output produced by something. So in this case, it's the community solar project. And there's more information on our website at njcleanenergy.com/community solar. But I really wanted to talk about solar because I know it's always a popular topic and people always have lots of questions. And if you have questions about this, I will do the best of my ability to answer them. But right here is my contact information as well as Tony's. So there's our emails, our phone numbers, any questions you might have about our programs, about if you're working on something in your home or at your business that might qualify, you know, please feel free to reach out to us. Our job is to help. We are here to help, and you know, we just want to do everything we can. So we have questions. I hope we have questions, and Carrie Ann's going to read them. Tony will answer commercial industrial, and I'll do my best to answer renewables and residential. Carrie Ann?
Yes, we have a few questions here. The first one is from John Pennington. He asked, isn't governor's goal 100% carbon neutral rather than clean, allowing for plenty of dirty to remain by credits against it for clean and trees and reductions?
Could you read that? So wait, you're saying it's not 100% carbon neutral? Is that what we're saying? It's 100% carbon neutral versus 100% clean energy?
The governor's goal.
Yeah. So it's 100% renewable as far as I know, you know. Tony, do you have a different take on that?
No, that's right.
Yes.
Okay. I'm assuming that's the same as carbon neutral. No new net carbon emissions.
Okay. Next question. Do contractors manage the rebate?
So as far as like quote unquote manage rebate, there could be some different definitions of that. So I'll try to answer it the best I can. So with that home performance program, the rebate can go to either the homeowner or the contractor. You know, when it's going to the contractor, basically the homeowner is paying less cost up front and the contractor's taking the burden. Some contractors do that, some don't. So you'd have to work with different contractors. But what I think that might mean is in regards to our WARMAdvantage COOLAdvantage program, do they manage the actual applications of the rebate? So I would recommend that they do. So there's a contractor portal where they can submit online. But if your contractor can't do it or isn't comfortable doing it, there is a customer portal. So you can submit the rebate.
Okay. And the next question is, are local government electric vehicle purchases eligible for any incentives?
Yes, and actually that's recent. So electric vehicles are an important new initiative. I think that the statistic is 40 to 45% of the carbon emissions in New Jersey come from the transportation sector, from vehicles. And so the Murphy administration has started to incentivize electric vehicles. And actually that was passed, and I believe it's retroactive. So if you bought an electric vehicle in the past couple of months, I think it goes back to maybe earlier this year, but there are incentives available for electric vehicles for individuals and for, I guess the question was about, I don't know if the question was specifically about municipal fleets, but all electric vehicles are being incentivized. So yes.
Okay, great. There was that one other question, are all local governments eligible for free energy audits? But I believe, Tony, you answered that while you were speaking, right?
Yeah, I happened to notice it pop up there. Yes, and so for those of you that have been following the program for a number of years, quite a few years ago, it was the case that the program was covered, but you had to pay for you paid for the audit up front, and then if you did work on it, you got that money back. Go to your mechanic, they'll do an inspection on it and charge you, but if you do the work, they won't charge you. That is not like that anymore. The local government energy audit is completely 100% free now. And the audits are very in-depth audit. They cost, depending on the size of the building, these audits cost $5,000 or $10,000 to do. And the Clean Energy Program completely covers that cost. The companies well, it's TRC actually does the audits now. And the Clean Energy Program pays that money directly to TRC. So yes, it's completely free.
Okay, great. Actually, we have a few more questions here. Can you provide a template about these services that could be downloaded to our commission or town websites? Yes, we have all kinds of documents on our website. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. So there, I mean, I guess I would encourage, to answer that question, go to the Clean Energy Program website. If you go there, you will see tabs up on the top that there's one for residential programs. There's one for commercial and industrial programs, which includes the municipal sector. There is a tab for renewable energy. So Michele talked about that. That's an important part of the initiative to do renewable energy. So you should be able to navigate. If you have difficulty navigating it, please do reach out to us. We're happy to help you. We could, if there's a very specific program we talked about that you want information on, reach out to Michele or myself or somebody at Clean Energy, and we can get you the information that you need.
Okay, great. This one's for you, Tony. Do you do presentations to school boards? I'm sure they'd be
I
interested.
love to do.
So yeah.
Yeah, we do. Actually, I served on a school board for one term. So I speak their language a little bit. And now that I'm on the commercial industrial side here, schools are in my wheelhouse. But schools are great to present to. School boards are great to present to because generally they have, there's a business administrator that they're working with, and school districts will have facilities managers. Usually it will have dedicated facilities managers. So they're pretty savvy on these issues. So, but sometimes the real power to approve or deny this lies with the school board members. So it is a good idea for them. I mean, if they're not certain about the programs, yeah, I would encourage them to get in touch with us. We'd be happy to talk with them and let them understand the program, whatever specific program they have a question about, and give them a broad overview. There may be programs that they're not even aware of that they may be eligible for.
Great. Another one, are hybrids also eligible for rebates on the EVs?
That's a good question. I'm not, Michele, do you know the answer to that? I'm not certain about that.
I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, well, we'll follow up.
Yes, but I would, yeah, I'm not, I don't like to give it a definitive answer unless I'm certain.
Okay, we have another school question. Are local schools eligible, just like local governments, for free energy audits?
By local school, like, I'm not sure, so you mean just like any public school in New Jersey is eligible, actually. They would go through their school district, so there are different, New Jersey's a very unique state. We have a variety of types of school districts. We have some K-5 school districts, kindergarten to 5th grade. We have some K-6. We have some K-8. We have the more popular version is a kindergarten to 12 district. But at all public schools in New Jersey, including charter schools, their public schools are eligible for the clean energy programs and are eligible for the free local government energy audit.
Great. Any other questions? That's all that's in the chat box right now. Sheila, do you want to take the reins?
Sure. Well, I'd like to say thank you to all of you, to Michele and Tony and Carrie Ann. This has been really informative. And I'd like to thank all of the commissioners and everybody who's attending, you know, taking time out of their day to learn about this. And hopefully there will be a lot of follow-on activity. And we are recording this, so probably like in a week or so, we will have, we'll put it up onto the ANJEC Views YouTube, and we'll put it on our social media and stuff, and we'll share the links with you.
Okay.
So
I'll jump in real quick. So one of my colleagues just texted me. Thank you very much, Kim. That plug-in for the electric vehicles are eligible for rebates. So.
okay, and there's a question
Tentative
here
answer.
from John Pennington. Will you be sending out the presentation as well? Will we be able to share that with the attendees?
Sure, we'd be happy to.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank
Well,
you.
Yes, thanks to
Really
everybody for
appreciate everybody's
participating.
help.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, I want to make sure I save the chat, and I will stop recording. And hope everybody has a good evening.
Yep.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
everyone.
much for having us, Sheila. This was
Yeah,
so
great
great.
job.
Thanks again for having us.
Appreciate
Have a
it.
good one.
Everybody. Thank you.
very much.